Welcome to ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs, pyramids, and mysteries that have captivated us for centuries. Let's journey through the history of this fascinating civilization. The current president of Egypt is Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. He has been serving as the sixth president of Egypt since 2014 after being appointed Minister of Defense and Commander-in-Chief of the Egyptian Armed Forces in 2012. El-Sisi led the 2013 Egyptian coup d'etat, overthrowing President Mohamed Morsi, and was later sworn in and into office as President of Egypt on June 8, 2014. He has since been elected in 2018 and 2023, although his government has been criticized for its authoritarian nature and human rights abuses. For millennia, the Grand Pyramids of Egypt have towered over the desert sand. Everything about the great ancient civilization that once seized the lands remained a mystery. That is until July 19th, 1799. A French soldier discovers a large stone about 35 miles east of Alexandria during Napoleon Bonaparte's Egyptian Revolution, unearthing a written language that had been dead for thousands of years. The translations would prove to be the key to unlocking the secrets of an entire civilization. Egypt is the gift of the Nile. That is what Herodotus, the father of history, said, since the Nile is the lifeline, as it provided Egypt with water for the cultivation of crops, which led to the beginning of civilization all along the length of the Nile Valley. The river strip that divided the Egyptian territory into two parts provided a favorable environment for the rise of civilization. When the Nile Valley began in the Miocene times, cutting it into its current shape. The various geographical resources effectively contributed to the state's foundation. As a result of the annual floods that spread the fertile soil to the east and west over the centuries, mud deposits build up. When the water recedes and flows along its banks, the agricultural year begins, making Egypt one of the first agricultural communities that ever existed in human history. At the end of the Paleolithic era, there was a widespread production of arrows, harpoons, quans, sealed skins, bone wax, and pottery. Carbon-14 tests, on the other hand, were used by researchers to demonstrate that corn was harvested in a Neolithic silo on the edge of Fayum between 4600 and 4250 BC. Later, people built sacks and huts out of reeds and solid mud and sowed corn on the muddy soil of the Nile marshes. Ancient Egypt was divided into two territories, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt lay to the north, where the Nile extended out with its several branches to form the Nile Delta. Upper Egypt, which stretched to Aswan, was to the south. The two kingdoms were united around 3000 BC by King Nema, but each retained its regalia, the headget or white crown for Upper Egypt and the deseret or red crown for Lower Egypt. As a result, the pharaohs were known as the rulers of the two lands, and they were assigned a double crown with each half denoting sovereignty of a different land. The pre-dynasty period in ancient Egypt is the period preceding documented history, encompassing around 6000 to 3150 BCE. From the Paleolithic to the Neolithic age and until the founding of the first dynasty. While there are no written records from this period, archaeological digs in Egypt have unearthed items that convey their tale of the Nile River Valley's cultural history. The pre-dynasty period is called by the regions or ancient city sites where these artifacts were discovered rather than the cultures that there. The Hafan culture thrived circa 30,000 BCE in the area between Egypt and Nubia, giving birth to the Quadan and Sibyllian cultures. Around 10,000 BCE and the Arifan culture. All of these cultures are hunter-gatherer societies that gradually grew more sedentary and settled into more permanent settlements based on agriculture. The Fayum Oasis is a natural basin located southeast of the Giza Plateau that gave home to Fayum civilization during 9000 to 6000 BCE. These people lived in the vicinity of a vast lake and made their living through agriculture, hunting and fishing. The people of Fayum constructed rich homes with subterranean basements for food storage. Cattle, sheep, and goats were domesticated, and bucketry and poultry production flourished. During this period, tribal chieftains assumed positions of power, which may have been passed down to the next generation. In a family or tribal unit, communities went from tiny tribes traveling together to large groupings of diverse tribes living in the same region all the time. The Fayum culture gave rise to the Miremde during 5000 to 4000 BCE, which was named from artifacts discovered at the location of that name on the western side of the Nile Delta. The majority of Egyptians were farmers, and agriculture was the basis of the dynastic Egypt economy, and farmers relied on the annual summer floods to grow their crops. We know that the first Egyptian farmers were hunter-gatherers. They planted crops such as wheat, lentils, barley, flax, and peas, in addition to herding animals. Egypt, the land of civilization.